Hey everybody, this is John Zakari, and today I'm coming at you with a review for Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge exclusively for the Wii U. The original release of Ninja Gaiden 3 on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 was met with a lot of criticism. Many believed that the newest entry in the series featured dumbed-down gameplay with auto combos and a large emphasis on quick-time events, whereas previous entries focused on tough gameplay that required the player to use a wide array of attacks and good timing to succeed. The Wii U version of this game looks to solve many of these gameplay issues while also bringing back violent dismemberment that's absent in the other versions. Who said Nintendo had the kiddie consoles? This version of the game comes packed with extra content, including additional story missions that allow the player to control female ninja Ayane. All of these story missions can also be replayed as challenge maps, in which the players can use not only Ryu and Ayane, but also two other female ninjas, Momiji and Kasumi. All of these characters have made appearances in Ninja Gaiden games in the past, but fans may also recognize Ayane and Kasumi from the Dead or Alive fighting game series. The game also features an online mode in which players can customize their own ninja to use in either co-op or competitive matches. While this seems like it could be fun, a lack of community already makes it tough to find a game. When I could find a game, it was only with one other person, and if you're playing with someone like me, one-on-one isn't much fun. The plot of Ninja Gaiden 3 begins with series hero Ryu Hayabusa receiving a visit from Japan's Self-Defense Force, who sent him to London to thwart a terrorist attack. During this mission, Ryu learns that the terrorists are a cult called the Lords of Alchemy, and he even encounters their leader, who calls himself Regent of the Mask. During a battle between the two, Ryu stabs Regent in the chest, allowing Regent to infect Ryu with what appears to be some sort of STD. The player later finds out this is actually a curse called the Grip of Murder. The curse will worsen as Ryu kills people until it consumes him. As a result, Ryu must pursue Regent and the Lords of Alchemy to save not only the world, but also himself. Normally, in a more Japanese game like this, I prefer to use the original Japanese language tracks with subtitles, as the English translations are often pretty subpar. But the English track in this game is actually pretty good. The writing behind it might not be the best, but the voice talent gives it some life, with Troy Baker voicing Ryu Hayabusa and Ali Hillis voicing Ryu's partner Mizuki McLeod. For those of you who don't know, Hillis is largely known for her voice work on the Mass Effect series as Liara Tassoni.
This is a special bow that can lock onto a target. Should be easy enough for you to use, right?
I've used bows before.
Okay. Good luck. Remember, I'll be watching your back.
James Hayward Brinkley also needs a mention for his portrayal of Regent of the Mask. He seems to embrace the silly dialogue with a sense of overacting that gives the villain a fun sense of humor.
You know, I think you might add something to the mix as well. Goodbye!
What a boss! The combat in Razor's Edge is a large improvement over the previous versions of the game, as the player feels more in control of Ryu's actions and is able to pursue a wide range of weapons, powers, and upgrades that suit various playstyles. And while the game is more combat oriented and Ryu doesn't use much stealth, there are many situations that test his agility. The game consists of a strong variety of enemies, from your typical machine gun and sword wielding soldiers to what seem like umbrella bioweapons and demons. Be careful because most of these enemies also have ninja abilities. Oh, of course the AI doesn't have to charge Flash Kick. Heck, even the dogs in this game are ninjas. Personally, I'd much rather have them play dead. The game does a good job at making the player approach these different enemies in different ways, and offers up fights that contain a good mix-up of the enemies to keep players on their toes. The bosses in the game attempt to do the same with regards to variation, but unfortunately the boss fights is where this game starts to run into problems. First off, the difficulty scaling between the boss fights and the battles leading up to them just seem to be off. To clarify, I'm not complaining about the game's overall difficulty. I just feel that the gap between the standard enemies in the game and the bosses is too wide. It feels like the boss difficulty level should have been slightly lowered, or the standard enemy difficulty should have been slightly raised. Really? This is the first boss? Oh, come on! Ah, finally! I'm so over this.
Generator's exposed. Take it out.
What? Great! Great! Also, when trying to figure out ways to defeat the bosses, I sometimes discovered ways to exploit the enemy AI before I actually found a more legit strategy. For instance, in a level when I was playing as Ayane, there was 3 ninja magician guys that acted as a stage boss. Initially, I just charged into all of them, which obviously didn't work, so then I tried to single them out and defeat them one at a time. This was working out pretty well, but during one of my attempts, I discovered that I could dash away to get enough distance between me and them to charge a full strong attack which acts as a dash and a grapple. This move dealt massive amounts of damage and at little risk, so I just repeated the action until I defeated them all. I also used the exact same strategy later in the game in a boss fight with Ryu. I doubt this is how developers intended these fights to work, but they were the best strategies I could find on my own. This isn't the case for all the bosses though. Many still abide by the series' tough but fair mantra, and the players will feel pretty satisfied when defeating them. There's also some issues with the tracking and targeting. With all the action going on, it can often be difficult to prioritize enemies. Here, I'm trying to shoot this rocket guy with my bow, but I keep targeting the ground troops. These issues can sometimes result in player death. Alright, now let's get into the score breakdown. For the most part, the player feels in control of his character during the hectic fights. Whether you succeed or fail, it usually feels like you're the one responsible. But a few issues, such as the targeting and enemy tracking ones mentioned, can make the game get kind of frustrating. The difficulty increases sporadically rather than steadily, which makes progressing through the game feel kind of like a chore at times. The online mode doesn't offer much enjoyment, but going through the chapter challenges with different characters gives the game some replay value. Gameplay gets a 7 out of 10. The game offers up a wide variety of level layouts with several different enemy types. The animations are fast and smooth, but too much action can result in screen clutter that can make it difficult to see what's going on. This screen clutter can also result in frame rate drops during the chaotic battles. Visuals receives a 6 out of 10. The main voice actors are solid, and the music does a nice job of picking up speed as battles become more intense, but some tracks are overused. Most of the sound effects are awesome, like the slicing and dismembering, but again, some are heard too often and get annoying, like hearing rockets explode. Audio earns a 7 out of 10. The story is mostly forgettable, as it seems to just act as a reason for the ninjas to travel around the world. The player quickly learns not to trust any of the characters, as there are several double and triple crosses, and I think in one case, there may even be a quadruple cross. There's also this secondary story that revolves around Ryu and what can only be described as his new family. There's an attempt to make the player feel some emotions during these sequences, but they all fall flat. Story gets a 5 out of 10. While the gameplay changes make this version far superior to the PS3 and 360 versions, the gamepad features seem very tacked on. As far as gameplay, you can only use the touchscreen to activate special abilities. These abilities are also mapped on the gamepad buttons, which are actually more reliable given the quick reaction time that the game requires. The player can also use the touchpad to level up his abilities and change weapons, but this can be done easier by looking at the TV. The only feature I really enjoyed on the gamepad was the ability to view the move list. I felt it sometimes came in handy to quickly review combos without having to pause the game. The game also runs fairly smooth on the gamepad, but again, players will notice frequent frame rate drops during the crazy battles. Gamepad implementation earns a 5 out of 10. In the end, Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge receives a 6 out of 10. Well, that just about wraps up the review of Ninja Gaiden! Hype! Please follow me on Twitter at JohnnyZakari to receive updates on my future news and review posts. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the video, I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments. And finally, don't forget to visit Wii U Daily for all your Wii U news.
Yeah.